Welcome back, Hostage Republics. Of course, Honorable Police Chief APGAINS. Another episode of APGAINS, but I'm not here. It's just APGAINS, but I'm not actually here. Today we're talking about the best time to farm StarKiller. Now, especially since the last couple months, he's become accelerated rate as far as his requirements are concerned. It has been an absolute blast for people to pick up StarKiller. He is one of my favorite teams in the entire game. Little known story. I've done 2 sponsorships in my entire life. One was for like a $30 Chinese microphone company. They paid me like $200, never talked to me again. I honestly don't even know if I got the money for doing it, but it was whatever. The second one was Google Play came to me and they're like, hey, we have this huge YouTuber. He's got a couple million subs. We will pay you to teach him basically how to play Galaxy of Heroes so he can promote it. So it was through Google Play, not through CG. CG didn't like funnel me any illegal drug money or anything like that. And they said that, you know, the mysterious thing that you're going to kind of announce in your collabs is Easy Conquest. That was the first time Easy Conquest came out. And then they said, hey, we'll actually let you pick one other person to do another kind of collab, and we'll give them the other half of this like announcement we're doing. And I was like, okay, maybe it's, you know, like a mod tool rework or whatever. So they gave me a long list of like creators that they had thought about, and I was like, you know what, I want Gridden, because I had just done a collab with Gridden. We had fun. It was great. And it come to find out the next day that they give him the StarKiller announcement. So they come to me originally. I'm like the first point of contact. Well, funny thing, they actually went to Ian, and then he leaked it immediately, and they're like, all right, we're going to work with APGAINS instead. And instead of coming to me with StarKiller, which would have made my career, they're like, yeah, you can talk about Easy Conquest, and then we'll have this throwaway sponsorship you can give to someone else. And it turned out to be fucking StarKiller. So when we did the big crumb puzzle, when StarKiller was announced, I was like, oh my God, what? StarKiller? Oh my God. So special place in my heart. I'm sorry for wasting a minute of your time, but, you know, just a character that I've always loved. And he fits so well into whatever your roster looks like. He is like the epitome of what the backbone is. For those of you guys who don't know, backbone characters are just characters that are better than the core 8, better than the auxiliary, not as good as GLs. A lot of times they branch into GLs, or they beat GLs, or they're just fantastic, right? Obviously, StarKiller beats Ray and a couple others, and he's great on defense, and yada, yada, yada. He's a fantastic team. But what's extra great about StarKiller, and I think makes him arguably the best backbone team in the entire game, or best backbone character, is his requirements are so versatile. Talon used to just like get plugged in on a BS like Sith Empire team just as a 5th so that you could use Datacrons. But now, I mean, with the Trey Omicron, Savage Omicron, Talon has a really, really special place. Even if you give her Omicron, or if you don't, a very special place on that Trey team, which is another backbone team. So you're kind of getting a double bang for your buck here with StarKiller. Dash Rendar has a Dash Scoundrels team with a little bit of Hondo from the Afra farm and a couple other Scoundrels at Tank and Vander Chewy and L3 and Nest. That's a backbone team. So you already have 2 extra backbone teams kind of coming out of this. Mara Jade is in the StarKiller team, so a useful requirement. And then Gal Katarn has some plug-and-play value on... You can throw him on Mothma, you can use him as a leftover Jedi. He's kind of like the runt of the litter. But, you know, theoretically, when we get Ray 5, his ship will be useful for the fleets. So I think that's why StarKiller is probably the best backbone team, and why they're likely going to be the first backbone team that you farm, especially being accelerated and pretty easy to farm. You do need them at R5, which is a little sad. I think Dash Rendar at 7 is a requirement for profundity or something like that. But you're never really going to regret the investment it takes to get the StarKiller team. You're going to get great value on offense. You're going to get great value on defense. I have yet to add in Visas Mar. I know I should, but with the Leviathan farm and then Cal Kestis and Leia, I never really have time. We'll probably do a video coming up here. Well, I'm recording everything in like a 48-hour time horizon. It's going to be like an entire 10 days for you as the videos come out. But I'll probably do a video on when's the best time to kind of go back and fix up some characters for some other farms. But a hole definitely in my StarKiller team that I've really been missing. I usually just replace her with like Jedi Training Ray or something like that. So when is the best time to farm StarKiller? Now, obviously... farming guides and stuff like that are not very linear anymore. They're not very one-size-fits-all. It's a lot of recommendation, which is why we're working on this like AI roster reviewing tool. Help you see what your roster looks like. Is it too tall? Is it too wide? What are some farms that you're close to so you can get them pretty quickly, whether they're core, backbone, auxiliary, GLs, whatever. What are some other recommendations that are going to give you long-term value? Basically, everything that you could ever want from a very in-depth roster review. Should you take this team to higher gear? Should you get better mods? Going to be kind of a slow rollout, so if you want to help support the process of putting that together, definitely join the Patreon. We're going to be doing some pre-alpha testing for all of you guys there before we roll out a beta, whenever that happens to be. But the point I was trying to make is the point I was trying to make is every roster is different and you kind of have to come at it uniquely. So just telling you guys right off the bat, this is the perfect time at 2.475 million GP, blah, blah, blah. I would say generally speaking, if you have probably at least 6 of the core 8 teams, 2 auxiliary teams, and your ships are pretty good, but you're not necessarily super excited to go after a GL for whatever reason. Maybe you have GL apprehension, maybe you not in a great guild, so your resource allocation or your resource acquisition is not fantastic, and you just kind of want to get a little bit wider. Definitely a great place to plug in SLKR prior to going into like a JML Profundity Cal Kestis kind of farm. Conversely, if you go into something like a GL Rush account, which are generally speaking really bad ideas for long-term viability or for immediate-term viability, that's for sure, and you find your roster is incredibly tall, meaning you have a couple of really good teams, but you're not spread out wide enough to be effective in GAC, definitely a way to get good power, but also a lot of width onto your roster so you can kind of take like a stone down. So you're super tall, you grab a less powerful but also a little bit wider team that branches out into some other farms, and you grab some extra core teams, some extra auxiliary, a couple extra backbones, and you kind of fill out the cube from there. And that's why I think he's usually the first backbone team, and arguably my favorite and the best, is that he's so versatile to where if you've gotten too wide and you need a good way to take a step up without going straight into a GL, he kind of fills the bucket. If you've gone too tall and you need a crescendo down to get a little bit wider, but not going straight for an auxiliary team like a fucking Geos or something like that, he's a good step down. He's going to hold viability because he is so strong. GAC Omicrons are powerful. Funnily enough, his most powerful Omicron, or second most powerful Omicron, especially for the Ray counter, is his AoE Omicron that I didn't have until like literally today. I was like doing some videos with Arnold, and we were just like, oh shit, I was like looking at my StarKiller for whatever reason. I'm like, holy shit, do I not have the AoE Datacron that kind of removes all of the buffs? And I was like, maybe that explains why my Ray counters are not fantastic. Obviously, there's not any relics on Emperor Palpatine, and there's no Datacrons ever put on there, so I'm at a stark disadvantage in that respect. But yeah, arguably first backbone team you should go for. Really plug and play. There's never a bad time. I would go so far as to say there is never a bad time to farm StarKiller. Whatever your roster looks like is a good time to farm StarKiller. Now, I wouldn't do it at 0 GP. I would probably open up with 2 auxiliary teams, at least 4 core teams, and then go into a StarKiller. I wouldn't do it right out the gate. But even if you did do it right out the gate, it's easier to recover from that, and arguably better than going straight for a C or an SLKR or a Jabba or something like that right out the gate. So not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But again, I think the most flexible. I think he's kind of, whenever you want to do it, is a great time to do it, and that's why he's my favorite. That's why he's my favorite. That's why I think he's the best. That's why I think he's the most diverse. And leading into 2 other backbone teams with the Dash Rendar and Darth Talon is definitely an added benefit. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you, and I'll see you later.